Oh, there it goes. Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order. We've got agenda in front of us. Any changes? Councillor Ferguson. Thank you. Add committee appointments.
Indian camera. Session.
Okay, noted. Councillor Ferguson, you're okay with the motion to accept as amended?
Yes, I am.
Motion is on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Jump in right into CAO update. Gary.
So good evening. I don't really have too many things to highlight other than it's business as usual at the town of Slave Lake. A lot of our departments are winterizing and moving into fall work, which is obviously typical this time of the year. I do have a couple of updates in terms of the projects themselves. Downtown Revitalization project, we are moving into trying to winterize the site. Doesn't look like the weather's going to cooperate to even get the curbing in at the site. So what winterizing means is hauling and putting some gravel type material around so we can move the fences in a little bit away from the driving lane to make it safe and reduce the perception that the road is really narrow in sight, as well as changing the fencing along the service credit union so that they can have their parking lot fully back and move the fence back to kind of a tighter perimeter of the site. So that's what the plan is going to be. The chain link fencing along the trail that connects up to Big Fish Bay should be done this week. And the other one that there's some active work still happening with is the waterline crossing at Sawridge Creek. I haven't talked to you about that one for a little bit. The geotechnical pieces came back. They're looking at changing the alignment to the east side of the bridge and making some alignment changes. Instead of going on the west side of the bridge, just drilling a little bit further over. And the plan is still that can proceed this fall. The engineering is wrapping up, and believe that we could still get that work done this fall. That one's important so that we still have that looping of the water lines to service the southeast. So that's why administration is trying to keep going with it if possible. And that's really all I have to highlight. There's a lot of things happening, but a lot of it is really it's our day-to-day business that goes on in the town.
Okay, questions, comments from council? Councillor Gramlich.
Gary, I just want to commend you and Jill. It's my understanding that as of today, you've enabled the walking track to be open for drop-in soccer, scheduled drop-in soccer and scheduled drop-in pickleball. So thank you to you guys for getting that rolling for everybody. And I understand you could comment more. There might be other possibilities for drop-in sports moving forward, but that's the start of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councillor Busk.
The one thing that I wanted to mention is when we're doing snow removal and stuff downtown, we're going to have to watch that edging of the fencing because of course the brackets come out sideways and stuff like that. So if the blade starts catching those, and it's just something to be aware of. I'm sure Calvin and the guys will be all over it, but yeah, no, it's disappointing that we couldn't even get the curbing down. As long as we make sure that we've got that fencing pulled away from service credit unions, handicap ramp and stuff like that, so their customers can still access their branch. That's the only concern I had on that side of it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's certainly our plan, is to make sure that service credit union gets their full parking lot space back, and moving it back, like you said, is important. And snow removal was part of that conversation.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I've seen none. We'll jump into bylaw number 20. 2021 on page 4 in our package. And so, Sam, this is a first reading for an applicant that's not the town.
That is correct.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion. Councillor King.
I'll make a motion that bylaw 2021 to amend section 89(2) of the land use bylaw 22/2007 receive first reading and required public hearing be scheduled for November 2nd, 2021.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll jump on to page 8 in our package for year-to-date actuals. Roland.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. The purpose of tonight's report is to provide council with the year-to-date actual versus budget for the period ending September 30th, 2021. Administration has reviewed the financial position of the town of Slave Lake as of September 30th, 2021, and has assembled a report that shows year-to-date expenditures versus budgeted amounts, not including amortization or reserve transfers. So on utilities receivable, total amounts receivable for utilities is $171,000. $85,000 are current under 31 days, $28,000 are between 32 and 60 days, and $57,000 are greater than 61 days outstanding. Overall, this is in line with expectations. An update on taxes receivable. Total amount for taxes receivable currently stands at $2.6 million. This is down from $4.3 million from June. This represents about $1.8 million for 2021, $722,000 for 2020, and $84,000 for the years 2019 and 2018. Amounts on the tax installment payment program or on a monthly contracted payment amount total $1.4 million. Penalties as a result of non-payment for taxes are significantly up over prior years. The expected penalty was forecasted for 2021 at $109,000 and is currently sitting at $204,000. This is the result of a small number of rolls with large outstanding balances that have incurred penalties at the beginning of the year. Attached to this report is the year-to-date actuals versus budget reports. There's been numerous vacant positions throughout the year. Wages in multiple departments are trending below budgeted costs. Overtime costs are also trending higher in areas that required staff to backfill vacant positions. Net costs for the town around personnel, however, are expected to be under budget. Professional fees for the year are all trending higher than budgeted amounts. Facility closures and lower attendance due to COVID-19 have had a significant impact on revenues in 2021. This has mainly been offset with the reduction in staffing related costs due to layoffs and unfilled positions. Moving on to fire services. While they've had a very busy year, this is not translated into services that have had a recoverable cost. Revenue is also significantly down in this area and could see fire services incur a higher than expected deficit. With that, however, though, current projections show that the town, in light of the revenue reduction, is most likely to run a surplus for the year.
Okay, questions from council? Comments? Going once, going twice. Motion. Councillor Brandel.
I will make a motion that council accept the report as information.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Roland. Checks over 50,000, page 12 in our package.
All right, for this report, we have the checks in excess of $50,000 that have been written from July 1st to September 30th. In total, there have been 21 checks/ETF payments in excess of $50,000. One refund for overpayment by the Alberta government on payments toward the government center was issued. Payments toward grass cutting services, a requisition payment for the housing authority, as well as payroll were all part of normal operations. There have been 6 checks for capital projects. So the first check was new floors, includes payments totaling $50,000 for the MRC flooring replacement project. Nelson Sand and Gravel includes payments totaling $948,000 for the Gloryland Road project. Northern Lakes College includes a payment for the pool facility project. And the Seaguo Industries includes a payment for the purchase of a flood pump. Checks relating to payroll expenses totaled $1 million for the period.
Okay, Councillor King.
Just a question possibly for Gary. The roof restoration project, does this one now have a warranty?
Yes, it will. We are still waiting on the roof or the warranty documents. However, part of the bid document that was submitted to bidders was that they had to provide a 15-year warranty through the Alberta Roofing Contractors Association.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, a motion? Councillor King,
Make a motion to accept this as information.
any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Page 15, organizational meeting.
Speak to that one. So the purpose of this report is to have council to pass a motion to cancel and reschedule the organizational meeting that was originally scheduled for October 19th. In 2020, at the organizational meeting, the next organizational meeting was set for October 19th, 2021. Because of the election and the timing of the election, we've already have advised council candidates that and scheduled the next organizational meeting to occur on October 26, 2021. So essentially, we're asking council to cancel the meeting next week and reschedule it for October 26, 2021.
Okay, questions from council, concerns? Councillor Busk,
Make a motion that council cancel the organizational meeting of council scheduled for October 19th, 2021 and reschedule for October 26th, 2021.
any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, council orientation outline, Gary.
Yes, so we have included for your information and input a copy of the orientation that the new council will receive, primarily between October 26th and 28th. Starting off with October 26th being the organizational meeting and the swearing in ceremony. And then 27th and 28th will be specific all-day orientation types of pieces. And then moving into November 1st with a full day of further orientation, and November 6th and 7th being strategic planning sessions with council and senior staff. Copy of the upcoming important dates is circulated as part of the report, as well as the table of contents of the actual orientation manual is provided for your information.
Okay, I just had a quick question. So on page 21 on our package there's a November 30th meeting for protective services, and it says all council attends protective services. All council attends disaster services meeting. So this is supposed to be a disaster services meeting, not protective services? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councillor King,
Make a motion that council accepts this report as information.
any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Administrative policies, page 24.
So a few years ago, the policy was passed by council, the policy and procedure standards policy. So it's essentially the policy that sets out how we do policies. The policy on policies was passed by council. And in that policy, it specifically indicates that we have council policies and we have administrative policies. And I wanted to basically, I'm just proposing some clarity around those two because we do have some policies that need to come up for review. Staff are starting to work on these, and we just need to be clear as to which categories they fit. So what we have defined as administrative policies is being things that involve internal processes that don't have any public impact. Could include employment practices or employee code of conduct and ethics, and definitely includes our health and safety policies. With COVID-19, our health and safety policy has had to be amended a number of times, right? That's a really good example of an administrative policy. Would also include things like records management and other pieces where it's very specifically administrative that has very essentially no public impact. Council policies are all those things that relate to council matters, such as boards and committees, council compensation and proclamations and so on. And those policies that have public impact. So I'm thinking in the community services world, we have facility usage policies, we have user fees. They talk about special events, like policies around lot grading as an example, or offsite levies. Those kinds of things have significant public impact and should definitely be a council policy. Then the other third piece to council policy is that sometimes under legislation, there's things that we're required to have policies for. The Municipal Government Act says we need to have a policy on, say, tangible capital assets or managing reserves, and those types of things definitely need to be public policies. What I wanted to do is just to see if council had any other input into this, and if not, as administration, our recommendation is to receive this report for information. And if council is okay with that, then we would proceed with some of the policy changes that we need to do. There's some policies that we need to update in terms of some of the employment policies is a really good example. Most of it is pertaining to employees only. Where there are challenges, where there are potential public impacts for those types of things, administration should be bringing a report to council. So for example, the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, we brought a report to council for that because there are implications into service delivery, customer service, and potentially not a direct one for budgets, but if there were for budgets, we would bring those reports to you for your approval. Even if it was only listed in an administrative policy, then we would amend the policy just to make sure council's in the loop. But I wanted to bring that forward to see if there's any need for any further clarification around those two.
Okay, questions, comments from council? Going once, going twice. Councilor Grumlick.
Make a motion that council receives this report as information.
Any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're cruising right along tonight. We're getting into committee minutes. We'll start with intermunicipal. They haven't had a meeting. Watershed.
We haven't had a meeting since the last update.
I don't know. Chamber of Commerce, I wasn't at the last one, so housing.
We have, they had a couple, cases of COVID in the lodge a couple weeks ago. It's the most that we've had. I think it was less than a handful, but it was the most that we've had since COVID has started. There's both staff and residents that had it. No deaths, and everybody has quarantined, and everybody is out now. And all the staff that were quarantined should be back to work this week. We're still working on budget. Meeting on Thursday, and I think we should be passing it. So we're just about done. And the other big thing is that AHS is mandating everybody in the lodge to get the shot, to get vaccinated because of the contract with AHS for home care. That's an AHS requirement.
To clarify though, that's only workers, not residents. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Residents were already mostly vaccinated. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Going once, going twice. Tri-Council Health.
So we met on October 7th. We have a U of A second year medical student will be here. They had to postpone the awards for RPAP. They're just about done the community profile. And when they are done, they'll make sure that it gets to Joanna and to all the people that will be sitting on this Tri-Council Health going forward. The next meeting will be November 4th at 3:00. So whoever is on this committee, that will go into their calendar, and we have that one booked. And we sent off our letter of support for the Homeless Coalition. And we are going to be adding a verbal report from the chemo group going forward on this committee when they have news to report. And we have we're about 13 working days to get an appointment right now. We have some of our providers that have family issues and are off on sick themselves. We still have walk-ins. We're going to delay opening evenings and weekends right now, just to keep our staff so they don't get burnt out, and it's working the way it is right now. We learned that AHS employs 130,000 people in the province, which is a big employer in this province. And we talked about nurse practitioners, as we have 7 positions, 2 that are working, 2 that are on extended leave. And they've actually lowered some of their experience and are going to be starting to accept new grads. And the cities in Alberta have opened up more postings. So again, it's harder to get nurse practitioners to come to rural Alberta when the city has opened up more. So you guys will continue to work on that. There's a mental health component locally and provincially for people struggling with personal and professional lives right now. So just again, have a little grace and take your time. It's been a pleasure and respect back up on this committee. We stay in our own lane and AHS does their job and we do ours. So it's been a pleasure working on this, and I'm sure the next council going forward, this committee will be in good hands. Thanks.
Thanks. Any questions? Tourism, sorry.
We are working on updating some ATIS listings with Travel Alberta, which will help visitors find our local businesses online and in apps such as TripAdvisor. And we're working on winter tourism ideas. We're working on an all-in winter event with COVID-friendly events, possibly a ice fishing tournament, so we can keep it COVID-friendly no matter what the numbers happen this winter. So stay tuned for more on that.
Okay, questions, council? We'll jump into library.
So we met on October 6th. Well, the library is still running at a third capacity with masks and social distancing. They will stay open Monday to Friday right now from 10 to 4. Seems to be working well. And then they're going to look month by month as things progress in the world if they will start to open up later and back onto weekends. It's now a 1-day book quarantine. They have about 15 to 30 people that go through the library in a day. We started something I wanted to start with the library a while ago. And so we started on October 6th with the land acknowledgement. And we've now put that into place that we will start that way for all our board meeting or for all the library board meetings. We also sent a letter of support with some of our own wording in it from the Slave Lake Library Board to the Homeless Coalition for the ADRN loan. November 3rd will be the regular library meeting again. So anyone that gets on council and takes that board, we've kept our meetings the same and they'll be able to go into your calendar. And there could be new MD rep as well, as they have more people than seats in both sides of the MD. So they're looking forward to moving forward with that. The library board's been a great board to work on. The library does a lot more than just books. As someone who's not a reader, the library has offered a lot of great things in the last 19 months with COVID, and they're going to continue to offer their craft packages for adults and children to be picked up. They've gone over really, really well. They've kind of toned down a little bit of their Zoom stuff right now because people are just Zoomed out, adults and kids, and they will also be going with the story walk with Community Futures and the Chamber for the mini monster. That'll be on Saturday, October 30th from 11 till 3. And then they have a spooky mini golf that they're going to be having on the Saturday and the Sunday, the 30th and the 31st. So watch for more information on that. Thanks.
Any questions, comments? Naming,
Have not met.
community futures.
We have our board meeting next month, but just to reiterate what Councilor McGregor was saying, there is Mini Monster Halloween coming up Saturday, October 30th from 11 to 3. So watch for some social media push outs for that. And our outreach worker has finally got the okay to go back into schools for the youth entrepreneurship and business programs. So that is exciting and that's fantastic to be able to get visitors back into school.
Any questions? CEC.
All right, so we met on the 16th of September. There was a week-long, they have a website page, and there was a week-long from October 27th to September 27th to October 1st for Truth and Reconciliation with lots of different videos and education and knowledge. The college will be staying open. We have an interim chair right now. We're short a couple of public members on our board. So we're going to be seeking out some different people to sit on that board. And then we'll pick a new chair in November. They had a virtual attendance for their academic upgrading. And it was really, really good. They had like their learner income support grant person there, which used to be old Alberta Works. And it was really well attended. So they continue to do that. What else did we do? We have 54 students in academic upgrading right now, which is huge. We have Driftball students coming to Slave Lake because they don't have a campus right now. So they're coming to Slave Lake and that's working well. The NLC Connect app has tons of information. So if you would like to download that. And they've worked with the Slave Lake Outreach School to help with some of the textbooks for some of their students. So collaboration there, which was really good. Trades are down a little, which we knew was going to happen. But we're hoping to get those back up and work with our career coaches in the High Prairie School Division. And we still have online courses with Slave Lake Adult Education. And that is it for that one. Another great board to work on. So hopefully we can get back our public members and keep this board going and work collaboratively with other partners. Thanks.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, homelessness.
Okay, so we've had a couple meetings, lots of stuff going on and lots of updates. The biggest thing we have been working on is a temporary emergency overnight shelter. We now have an agency to work under. The Adult Education Committee has graciously agreed to provide administration services for us and act as a banker per se for the time being. So having an agency to work under was a major obstacle in applying for grants and receiving them. So we greatly appreciate it. We currently have a legal team that has donated their time and resources to help us incorporate as a nonprofit and work towards charitable status as well. We've been in the process of forming bylaws and have a board of directors now as well. Cardinal Energy has graciously agreed to provide the coalition $15,000 once our doors are open. We are extremely thankful for the support. A few other businesses and community organizations have stepped up and donated funds as well. We're currently waiting to hear back on the RDN grant. We should have a response back in a few days. If we receive the grant, we should be in good shape to have a temporary emergency overnight shelter running this year. We've received several letters of support throughout the community. Thank you to everyone for providing this, and thank you, Councillor McGregor, for the 2 letters you provided as well. So plans for this year. Right now, we are planning for hotel rooms for the first 2 months. Hotel Northern Star has graciously agreed to donate some rooms for a month, which we are extremely grateful for. After this, we are planning to place a camp trailer on the empty parcel of land directly north of the Animal Rescue Center. The airport has agreed to lease us the land at no cost for this winter. This location does present some operational and safety challenges, but at this point, there's nowhere else to go. So if someone does have a building they may be willing to let us use, please let us know. So some more recent events. Recently, the coalition went out and organized a bush cleanup with the ice dogs. We are very thankful for the ice dogs for volunteering and helping the organization out. The coalition also handed out Thanksgiving meals the other day as well, and we appreciate all those who helped with this endeavor. So wrapping up here, at this point, we are largely playing the waiting game. So much of this is contingent on us receiving the grant from RDN. We should know about that later this week. And we are also seeing more interest from people in checking out our meetings. Many hands make light work, so we invite everybody and anybody to join in on our meetings, even if it is simply for an information update. And that's my Homeless Coalition update.
Okay, questions, comments? Councillor McGregor.
And also the Homeless Coalition is now setting up to be a society, right? And so you can get a charitable status, and also a board was formed and going to do some policies and procedures legally.
We're working on bylaws. A board has been formed, working through non-for-profit status, and then we have a law firm helping us with that, and then eventually get charitable status so we can issue tax receipts as well.
So that's a big move in the last 2 years. So we aren't seeing much of a hindrance anymore when you get few people that are hindrance on the board and they leave. It's been really nice to see and sit in and be on these meetings and see this board move forward properly and formally.
Okay, any questions, comments? We did send over a letter of support too from the town of Slave Lake, and I'm working on the tri-council one that I let Jewel know. I talked to her today, Bryce, that we should have hopefully tomorrow. I know it has to go in by noon.
We greatly appreciate that. That helps really lend credibility to the organization in receiving and applying for grants. So
with Joy, I already got the one from the tri-council health. Having those three logos on there.
And we appreciate the speed at that. Those were expedited to be received. So thank you.
Excited to see some movement there. MPC.
So we met last week, just a quick meeting. We approved a front yard step variance, and that's about it.
Any questions? SDAB meets tomorrow, so I have nothing on that one. Waste.
So we had a presentation on our 2020 audited financials. The auditor's opinion is that our financials present fairly the financial position of the commission. So that is a good thing. We are also working towards transitioning one of our positions into a working landfill manager position. The overall staffing level will not increase, however. Currently, the landfill is being managed by a senior member at the MD, but this is not sustainable long-term. It's important that we have someone in that position who is familiar with landfill operations. This helps us to maximize efficiency in landfill compaction and airspace so that we utilize as much space as possible that we have in the landfill. This landfill manager will also help to optimize preventive maintenance schedules as well, which should help with overall maintenance costs.
Questions, comments? As I see none, we'll jump into airport.
So just a quick meeting. It was a discussion on providing a lease of the land for the coalition. So it was unanimously agreed on. So thank you to everybody at the airport. We appreciate that.
Questions, comments? Legacy, we haven't had a meeting. The biggest thing, I just want to say thanks to the town of Slave Lake there that kind of oversees the operations. Much like our other facilities, we're open, we're closed, we're open with some restrictions, we're open with different restrictions, and we kind of go back and forth and up and down. And they've been doing their best to gather bookings and gather revenue. So we are close to working through a discussion with a possible tenant for the upstairs. So that negotiation is ongoing, but just want to say thanks to administration for having to adapt constantly on that and making that work. Because I think the difference between success and failure in that facility has been the town, taking a lead role there and using all their tools in the tool chest to make it work. So I appreciate that very much. Any questions? We'll jump into protective services.
So we met on October 5th. It was a fairly brief meeting. There wasn't a lot of the groups on there. This is the first one that's been able to happen for quite a while as COVID has kind of kiboshed everything. And then it was environment's busy season with all the fires around and stuff like that. So they're hoping to have another one here before the end of the year. We did have a report from the hospital. I think we touched on it last meeting as well. There was still some space in beds, but like I say, that was last week. This is another week. So I'm not sure exactly where we're at with that. But they're in the process of getting the fiber optic line put into the fire hall, just waiting on some more stuff with TELUS and ongoing with training classes. And it should be looking good for us to have a few more firefighters coming down the pipe.
Okay. Councillor McGregor.
I'll add to that, search and rescue. We have Jim that's working along, and Big Stone and Deneta are two new groups that are going to have a search and rescue. We got a report from the airport that the fencing is successful. They went from 19 deer to 0. There's a new hazard incident team in the Northwest. John was telling us about. There'll be an in-person meeting they're hoping for on the 30th of November. We also learned from Keith from the hospital that there's some general public frustration still, but masks will stay at all AHS sites, will be required. They'll still give you a mask at the entrance. And any meetings that happen at the Lakeland building, you'll keep it on at all times. Like Darren said, that we still have beds, and Wabasca also still had beds. And there's a new training standard for ESS. Gary reported that to us, and some new registration software that will make it easier if we have to do another evacuation. And then they'll try to have that one on November 30th for all the new council.
Okay, any questions for protective services? Seeing none. Emergency manager doesn't meet. Northern Alberta Mayors and Reef Caucus doesn't meet until November. Northern Alberta elected leaders will give an update on last meeting. One thing, Joanna, I would say on this is that we should include the resource council. So we used to have a member on there. Then we didn't, and we never ever replaced that position. So it should be on the radar, because that resource council out of High Prairie is our opportunity to give input on the programming that had morphed from ParentLink into the programming that we have now. And so by not having representation down there, I don't think that we're doing ourselves a great service there. So we should put that on the radar for the board meeting there.
Do we not have staff that attend that and are in charge of that programming? And could they not just bring us a report and not have a counselor sit on there? Or I guess, sorry, Gary.
Part of our agreement with the High Prairie District Children Resource Council was to have 2 positions. One was intended to be a council position. One was intended to be a staff position. Staff position is normally the FCSS coordinator. Since that position is currently vacant, it's myself in a temporary role. But that was the intent when the agreement was set up with the organization.
Okay. Motion to accept the committee reports, the verbal updates as information. Thank you, Councillor Busk. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Correspondence. We had one in our package there from the Peace Library. No. Yeah, from the Peace Library system. I don't think we have any. What's that? That was in our email there earlier. Any questions on that? Let's jump into the management task list. Any questions from council? Councillor Ferguson.
The only thing I wanted to have a discussion about, I know a new council is going to be coming here in a couple of weeks, and we'd met with Parks and about Devonshire Beach about perhaps drafting a formalized agreement for grooming and maintenance. So I'm wondering if we should put that on the radar here, just so it doesn't get lost with the new council, perhaps.
Probably not a bad idea. Feel free to make a motion if you'd like, Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, so to direct administration to work with Parks to draft a formalized agreement regarding grooming and maintenance with Alberta Parks. Yes, of Devonshire Beach. Yes, of course.
I would just make sure a friendly amendment to include formula with the MD as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it should include the town and the MD. Motions on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Grumlock.
Gary, I was just curious if there's any update on Project Capture.
So Project Capture, I think the original question was how would we fund it? We've been able to find some funding within our own budget to cover those costs. It's about a week. The site was turned live, so it's slavelakecapture.ca, I believe is the website. I've gone in there myself. I actually registered my personal doorbell camera just to make sure the site works. It seems to work fine. And so the site is now up and running, and that will be communicated out shortly. The constable who is dealing with it just hasn't had a chance to connect up with our communications officer, but should be something this week on that being released.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor King.
I was actually going to ask about that as well. And I think it's a great opportunity right now because crime is increasing drastically in the community and it's on the uptick huge. So just a reminder to residents, please be cautious and please report anything that you see. It's the best way to deter this.
Okay, any other questions on management task list? Going once, going twice, motion to accept this information. Thank you, Councillor Brandel. Any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried. Mayor's Corner. I just want to say thanks to the Rotary Club on behalf of all the candidates there. There was all candidates forum was last week. I think they did a great job by taking that on and the technical aspects. Hired a company from Edmonton to make it work. Over 2,000 some views. So I just want to say thanks for them to doing that. I think forums are a great opportunity for people to get some feedback on the candidates. Yeah, that'll be Friday and Saturday. I know Joanna was crazy busy over here. There was just a steady stream of candidates coming through to vote. So it's great to see voters coming out in that participation. Hopefully we see that again on the 18th. Councillor Ferguson and I got to attend an event for the INC Church. They recently purchased the Wesleyan Church over in the Northwest. Moving into a new space and bringing some vibrancy to that neighborhood. And so it was great to connect with their group. They had a number of their ministerial staff came up from Edmonton. And so it was a great event. Congratulations to them. Anytime we have an empty building that gets new life in it, I think it's exciting for our community. In closing, our last meeting as this council, and I just wanted to say that, I think this has been the most challenging term that I've ever had on council. And I think, as challenging it has been for council, I think it was been even more challenging for our administration. So there's been a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that the public doesn't see. And time again, our administration rises to the occasion and fills the holes and fills the gaps and makes things work. So on behalf of council, I just want to say you guys are incredible. You don't get enough praise for what you do, and I appreciate all of it because there are lots of days that haven't been fun and haven't been easy. So I just want to say thanks to that. With that, good luck to all the candidates, and we'll jump into our in-closed session. Motion to go in closed session. Councillor King, any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried.
What's the forum?